Okay, cool. Right then. So how you been? What's going on?
I've been good. I've been heads down building. How are you?
I'm good. I'm at the moment, as you know, hopping about literally everywhere. So yeah, I just got back from. Well, basically, what I had to do was I flew to Austin and then had to fly to San Fran, and then basically it's a lot cheaper if instead of flying back from like another airport back to the UK. So I basically had to fly to Austin, then San Fran, and then from San Fran back to Austin, and then back to London. But yeah, I feel good. I feel very, very fortunate to travel. But yeah, how did you enjoy Austin? You came out for a bit, didn't you?
I did. It was fun. The weather was good, so it was changed from just like a rainy season here to like very much like a chill vibe there. And then it was fun just like meeting content guys and then having a chat with you and kind of brainstorming a little bit, and met the Pace guys, so that was fun. Just like hacking on a bunch of shit.
So what are you hacking on at the minute?
Right now, I'm still in love with stablecoins, so I kind of like doubling down there, trying to figure out like how we can like rebuild certain pieces of Astro again. Came up with this new idea around like a treasury management system for like different types of stablecoin platforms. One of the biggest things about stablecoins is that yes, issuance is the thing that's taking off right now with like Bridge and Stripe and like even Coinbase launching like issuance layer for other businesses. But the biggest thing is around just like the yield generation element is not in the control of the underlying people issuing on top of these platforms, basically. So there's a real like disconnect between like these platforms have distribution and Coinbase and Stripe and these guys have the issuance layer and all the regulations and stuff. So they're combining forces, but at some point there'll be some friction between like who owns the end customer. And then from there it's the platforms ask themselves, can we do it ourselves?
I guess it's like, you know, whenever you sign up to like, it's like if you don't know the product, then you are the product. You know, whenever you use Google, it's like Google's business model is obviously selling data. A massive part of it is. Do you think that whenever like a platform or say like a game integrates a stablecoin, do you think their business model will be basically generating yield off of the dollars in that platform? Because you can't do that in traditional finance really, but in crypto you can, as you know, because you could technically take USDC and then deploy a say like a wrapped version of USDC for your in-game currency. How do you feel about that? Do you think that the yield will be passed back to the user, or do you think the companies will generate business models off of that?
It will not be passed back to the user.
No.
Like Klarna announced, but like the simple model that I can kind of match it to is what Starbucks does already. And they don't really do stablecoins. So what they do is like people can deposit.
I've heard about that. Yeah. The gift cards.
Yeah, basically people deposit cash into Starbucks app or whatever, like gift card system. And then from there, Starbucks essentially takes the cash, places it into T-bills, and then they generate the yield on it. And the user essentially gets the gift card and they might not use it for like a year or like 6 months or whatever the case may be, while Starbucks is generating that revenue. They never have to issue a stablecoin. Like they just have a system of accepting cash, making money on that cash. So Starbucks isn't a coffee business, it's a bank business. And that's kind of the model most of these platforms will go to. Is like they'll build dedicated infra for their specific economy. So every app platform is essentially a closed loop economy, and they want to keep the user in. And then once they have enough cash that they can generate yield on, they can issue a stablecoin or a credit system on top of it, but they don't have to. They can replicate the Starbucks model.
So just for the listeners, can you explain what a T-bill is? What's a T-bill?
So it's just, T-bill is just short for like treasury bill, which is essentially a government-backed bill where you're getting paid a yield for holding a government bond, so to speak. But there's like variations. There's, right now, the yield has come down from like, I think 4.45% to like 4 I can't remember. It came down a couple of points. From there, I think there's a lot of the economics of stablecoin businesses will make less sense as the yield comes down, so that you have a bunch of RW real world assets coming into place where now you can like use the treasury that's backing your stablecoin into different types of like real world assets that produce a yield as well. So right now it's a yield game, and treasury bills, especially US treasury bills, are the most trusted security in the world, basically. And like all stablecoins are backed 1-to-1 in treasury bills. So if you place $1 into these stablecoins, you have $1 exposure in terms of these treasury bills. And that's how the stablecoin issuers generate revenue. And the user tends to not see this abstraction layer, basically. And you see the world kind of combining. So you have like decentralized stablecoins also making use of real world treasury bills, not on-chain ones sometimes. And then you have the native issuers like Tether and Circle also on the back end, essentially using the banking system to hold cash and convert it into T-bills and back when they make money. Yeah, Tether is the most profitable company by employee, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Better than Telegram?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
They're making so much money on like just the cash backing their stablecoin, and now they are diversified into Bitcoin and gold. Like stablecoin businesses are there for they make so much money it does not make sense. But you can see the contrast between Tether, which built a moat around crypto trading, and Circle, which built a moat about being regulation first, and then having distribution partners like Coinbase. Circle doesn't make all the revenue. They share revenue with Coinbase, whereas Tether makes all the revenue. And they share it with some partners, but those are like closed door deals, less like open about it, but yeah.
Okay, interesting. Well, all right then. Well, I feel you're warmed up. Yeah, let's talk about you, Kadar. So how long have we known each other for now? About 5 years, I reckon.
5 years, yeah, give or take. We met 2020, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that picnic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What was your name? On
we met before the picnic.
Did we?
We did.
Yeah, we went to scout the location, didn't we?
Yeah, we met. What was the park?
Hyde Park.
Hyde Park.
Hyde Park.
It was me, you, Clifton, and one of our other friends.
God, Clifton. Okay, yeah. So basically, we met back in the day. We met in the Polkadot days. Polkadot was kind of a relatively new thing, wasn't it? People were launching parachains projects. Were kind of getting off the ground in the ecosystem. And me and you met randomly in a Discord, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think, what was your name? Just Call Me Red or something?
Just Call Me Red.
Mine was Lazarus, which turns out to be a terrible really name. Bad name. And then I think Clifton's was Biddy Bum or something like that.
Something like that.
So yeah, three random guys. The story goes that, I think I must have been like 16 or something like that, and I was just trying to get off the ground. And God, looking back now, I should have never just gone and met random people. I know.
I should have. I didn't know you were 16. I was 25. I was like, okay, cool. I'm meeting crypto people.
Had these cartoon profile pictures. All of these fake names.
Yeah.
And then I got the tube down to Hyde Park, and then just casually met you. You were working at Copper at the time, weren't you?
I was. Yeah.
Man, but how about this? How about before then? So I'd like to know a little bit about your story. I think one thing I've been really enjoying is hearing about people's story. I just interviewed Tate and learned a lot about him actually that I didn't know before. But yeah, so you went a traditional way into the world of work, didn't you? You went to university. Tell us a little bit about that. How you started leaving school and going to uni.
Yeah, of course. I was an average student. School was really boring, and did college, went to uni, was like, what's the closest uni to my house in terms of radius? And then I was like, okay, cool, that one. That was pretty much the pick. And I think the closest one was City University, or I think Westminster or something. I was like, I picked City because it was one bus ride. I think Westminster, I had to change buses. I was like, I can't bother. And I selected computer science because I was more technical than most people.
And you could code?
Class. I could code enough. Some Python, not crazy amount. I remember I built my own websites and stuff, not crazy. So it was like, okay, I could do this. It's not that hard, right? And I chose computer science. First year in, I was like, I can't code. I saw people that could code, and I was like, okay, it takes me 10 times more effort just to get to their baseline. And some guys were just like wired different. And it's like they could pick up coding and it's not like rocket science for them. For me, it was like a headache. But I could understand system design, kind of structurally understand the product and kind of like map it out for the engineers. I didn't know that was the thing that you could do afterwards.
There's no Claude or ChatGPT back then.
So, no, not at all. So I was creating these scopes for like other people to program. And then there was a kind of side course for computer science called business computing systems. And it was essentially just like looking at systems and algorithms and so on. So I kind of switched between like hard computer science into that.
Yeah.
So that was my second and third year. And then I did my thesis, and I couldn't be bothered, honestly. I did it last minute, but it was like, I built a bartering system, basically a website, whereas like instead of exchanging like goods for cash, you can exchange goods for goods, and the website would essentially evaluate the value of whatever you put up at the time, which is you send an image and you give a description, and it would like say, okay, this is valued like $200. You could trade against these things that are also valued at $200.
Yeah.
That was the kind of
That's super cool.
Yeah, did that and then left school.
And you went to a family office, right?
Before that, I worked at a bank, like in their admin department. Just
How
like
was that? Just trying to get a bit of experience, was it?
Basically.
Yeah.
So it was UBS at the time, and it was like, hey, you're the only guy that knows how to use a computer well in like a department for like 20 people. And they were like, why don't you just like shift here and do like some of the admin stuff that it takes this guy like 5 hours every week. It'll take you like 30 minutes every week. Why don't you just like do that for us? And I started doing it, and it was fun. But I started to like go around the bank and talk to people. Basically, that's what I do best. I talk shit, and I started to talk to a bunch of people, and I realized, okay, I don't really know how money works, and I work at a bank, and I was like, okay, I need to.
Did other people know how like money worked?
Yeah. Some of them like they were brought up that way. Basically, their family's been in banking for like generations.
Yeah.
Other people was basically they studied it in school, so they studied like finance, economics, accounting, whatever. Everyone had a discipline, but all of them had a baseline foundation. This is how money works. It's a tool. This is how it moves, and so on. And I was fascinated. I was like, okay, cool. No one in my family knows how money works freely. It's like money exists. We kind of know how to use it. That's pretty much baseline, right? There's nothing else. Like truly, there's no philosophy behind like why you need money. It's basically we need to survive. We kind of need money. That's pretty much it. And I realized, yes, money pretty much underpins everything that happens in the world, or an exchange of economic value determines what happens in the world. I was like, okay, cool. I need to get into finance. So I just like started applying for any type of analyst role anywhere, basically.
And then what? So you're fresh out of uni. Yep. You've just been you've been learning about systems. I'm sure you've probably been learning about how computers work rather than the actual coding, right? You've built this MVP, your thesis, and now you're at a bank, UBS, did you say? And I'm sure you must have been encapsulated by finance by the sounds of it. It's like you're going off on it. You're fresh out of uni, straight into the world of banking. That must have been really interesting. And so now you're looking for an analyst position at an investment firm.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. So tell me about that then. So you gained experience in the bank, sort of kind of started to understand how money works, what you can actually do with money, how the kind of world works and the economy and the power of money. And then so now you go straight into an analyst role, right?
Yeah, but basically it was mostly self-taught. Like I was not in a department where like finance was the thing you were learning.
Yeah.
Basically by the time you land at these banks like Goldman, UBS, these guys, your baseline of like knowledge is like basically up here. Like they're talking in jargon. Like you're not understanding the conversation basically. It's like a foreign language. And that's how kind of they gatekeep a lot of people out. Like most of the stuff principally you can understand and you can explain to a 5-year-old, but they're using these words where they're like, you're just like...
Maths and physics is exactly the same, a well-known thing. I think... I'm probably going to get this wrong, but it might have been Einstein towards the end of his career kept saying the moon didn't exist. I don't know if you heard about that, but he was trying to confuse younger scientists. So he would be will basically get all of the scientific research grants. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so did you land an analyst position?
Yeah. So I landed at a family office that had basically been working with like 3 different families, and like family offices basically are managing. There's a point in time where you could become so rich that you can't even manage your own money. So you give it to either a family office or you give it to like an investment bank. Like at a certain net worth, you have to build an operation around how your wealth is managed, and that's how family offices come to existence. So they had a couple of families where they were managing a book of maybe $1 billion. And essentially they needed analysts to kind of do the day-to-day operations, be on call for like the families, kind of run like monthly reports, things like that. But it was a job where you can learn from scratch. You didn't have to know finance basically. So they could cover like basics of private equity, basics of venture, basics for like principal finance. And the managing partner at the time was a really friendly guy. So he just gave us things like, hey, read this. So a lot of economic books, a lot of like first principle thinking.
Any good ones you remember?
I can't remember, honestly.
That's
I have
fine.
to, like, if it comes to mind, I'll say
No,
it.
I know, I'm the same.
And there was also a lot of like psychology books. He was like, money can't be detached from human behavior.
nature, yeah.
So you kind of have to cover both sides. You can understand money, but if you don't understand how people operate, you're just going to get lost in both worlds. And he said you have to kind of converge them together. Human behavior and money always is things
Intertwined,
that are, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So how long did you work at the family office for?
I was there for about maybe a year and a bit. But basically it was a year of 9 to 5, not 9 to 5, it was 9 to 7 maybe. Mm-hmm. And it was like you're on call sometimes on the weekend. It's like pick up the phone. Or like you wouldn't have enough time to kind of finish your quarterly stuff. So you basically have to hack on it over the weekend to actually get it out there on time. Or like random issues could come up where a family member could say, hey, I need this wired Monday, but he sends it to you on the Saturday. And you have to kind of like note it down and stuff. It's kind of like being analyst is very like, it's a very brutal job, but you kind of have to know what you're signing up for. It's basically like you do whatever it takes to get the job done. And it's not like hey, this is nice, it's cushy 9 to 5 gig, I can mentally clock out
24/7.
You're basically clocked in all the time.
Got it.
So this was fun time.
So one thing I want to touch on with this is the story you're saying. This is a lot of people's dreams. I think a lot of people listening are probably younger people trying to break out into finance. Have you got any advice for people that maybe want to work at a family office? Like, how did you get a job there? I know you came straight out of uni, went in that bank. I guess the experience in the bank did that help in the family office getting a job there?
It kind of did in terms of like there's a reason why people go to university is literally to prove out you can do 3 years in a place and complete something. It's like a completion task. Like it's like a checkbox exercise. After that, the world kind of opens up into you have to show that you can do the job. Not that, hey, I have a track record of doing anything, because you have no experience. Yeah. So it's just get any type of experience under your belt. And I didn't know at the time, but who you know determines a lot of like your pathway, unfortunately. So start early. Start building your network early, start learning early. If you want to get into banking, you have to be really clear about type of things you need to do. It's like you have to go there, you have to do internships. A lot of this stuff wasn't drilled in. I was doing computer science. A lot of this would have not been drilled into me. But like if you're doing anything around economics, every basically semester or every like Christmas break or whatever, like every New Year, or every time you have a break from uni, you would go do a internship at a bank for like 2 weeks. And that stacks up. By the time you graduate, you have like maybe like 6 months to like maybe a year of experience at banks. And then you can go apply and say, hey, I have experience. If you graduate from uni without any experience, it's a little harder to kind of like break in. You have to know someone. So yeah, you have to start early. You have to know what you kind of want to do.
Got it. So say I'm a young student. Okay, so or say I'm in secondary school. Okay, so I'm kind of thinking about my pathway, saying get into university, just study something. Don't. The whole point of here being at uni is obviously to learn, but also prove that you can actually do something or complete something for 3 years. That's really important. I think a lot of people forget about that. It's proving that you can actually study for something for 3 years and then write a long dissertation on it. Okay, and then build up internships wherever you can over uni, and then as soon as you graduate from uni, you should have a pretty good, what would be the word, like a kind of badge of accomplishment to be able to get into one of these institutions. And then, your pathway, you did exactly that, graduated from uni, worked at a bank, then with that experience worked at a family office. Okay, cool. So after the family office, what happened?
I left because I got a offer at an asset manager at the time. I was like, okay, I hit a ceiling on what I could learn. But just to take a step back, that's when I first discovered Bitcoin. So the managing partner was essentially got one of the family offices, I can't remember who it was. I think it was like the son of one of the guys.
Rich people.
Yeah, and he was like, he sent him the Bitcoin white paper and was like, hey, this hedge fund is investing in this Bitcoin thing. I can't remember what the hedge fund was called at the time. This was 2019, I think. And he was like, I need you to read this, because like no one there was like only 3 analysts anyway, and no one was technical enough. I was the most technical person within the family office, and they're like, this has to do with computers. We don't understand what this means, really. So like, write a memo around it. So he sent me the Bitcoin white paper. I read it at the time. I was like, this is interesting. The 2 things that mainly summarized the like memo in the initial, like, hey, this is what it is, blah, blah, blah. The 2 key takeaways was, hey, a person can create an account, doesn't matter where they are. And then they can essentially accept and send money out of this account. Working with banks and sending wires every day as an analyst, I saw how the banking system worked. You saw how bad
Swift was.
Yeah. And then I did my first Bitcoin transaction. And I even like sent him the hash and how it worked. And it was like, okay, I can spin up a wallet, doesn't matter where I am in the world, and you can send me money. And I don't need a middle person to confirm I got the money. I just checked and I got the money. And it was like, okay, this is a game changer. Money is going to move this way, because like, why not? Like everything else, if it's faster and cheaper and more transparent, the world will move that way anyway. And I was like, this is kind of a game changer. And that was the first time. That was the spark, basically.
So what did your colleagues think? So you're a pretty, you're a technology guy, right? You're like, you have a degree in computer science, right?
Yeah.
You're working at this bank, so you can kind of, you can see the technology side. What about your colleagues and the partners? What did they think about Bitcoin?
They were like, their hesitation was around like the noise around Bitcoin at the time, which was like the Silk Road and scams and like people getting like
crime,
just wrench attacks on like people for their Bitcoin and stuff. There was a bunch of that stuff, nonsense going on at the time, but they didn't look at it from a tech perspective, and they just looked at it from a, hey, does this make sense as an investment at the time? And they were like, we'd rather not directly have exposure. They still wanted exposure. They were like, this is interesting enough to allocate a piece of our portfolio. So it was less than 1% basically.
Oh, so they did make an investment?
They did make an investment, but it was an investment into the hedge fund that invested in Bitcoin, basically. So they had like...
what people do, isn't it? Yeah, instead of going
they create this separation layer between them and like... Because at the time, there was not even there was not a lot of like infrastructure ready for like... If you wanted to buy like $1 million worth of Bitcoin, that's a heavy task. At the time,
you're going to buy it from,
there's not Coinbase existed and a bunch of these platforms existed, but 2019 was still relatively early for how the infrastructure worked. MPC wasn't fully taking off. There's a bunch of like custodial solutions that didn't exist. Wallets existed, but like it was a lot of like DIY stuff. It wasn't like hey, this is out of the box. You can buy $1 billion of exposure to Bitcoin like right now with the ETFs or anything like that. So there was no way for them to kind of do it. So they kind of create this separation layer. They invested in a hedge fund. Hedge fund took care of all of that, and they had exposure to the hedge fund, and their job was basically done.
Yeah, I think a lot of banks have been doing that for a really long time. I think only now they're actually starting to buy the ETFs and things like that because of the infrastructure around it. Cool. No, nice. All right. So moving on. What happened next?
Asset management. So I joined a firm called Janus Henderson at the time, and it was in their client reporting department. It was like pension funds and stuff like that. And I was, again, analyst role. Basically did the job.
Being on call.
But this was less of a grind. This was like a 9 to 5. You could mentally clock out, and it was like you had weekly, monthly, and quarterly stuff you had to do, like reports, talk to people, and kind of understand the business or whatever. Like send reports. Hey, my pension's going down. Cool. This is like your portfolio. Why your pension's going down? Like your pension fund.
So like the P&L for your clients. Then.
Yeah, and Janus Henderson was a mid to lower tier asset manager. It wasn't the big boys like BlackRock and those guys. Basically, it was like less well known, but still they had presence in like stock exchange and stuff like that. So it was like a pretty good brand to have on your resume at the time. And so I was there for about a year, and then COVID happened.
Oh my god.
And I was basically stuck at home doing this job where I can do it half asleep. So I used to like just clock in, do my job, and then clock out and go to sleep. Like there was days where I literally did no work because like I could finish it. Like I could like spend I could spend the next 2 days basically at night just doing all the work where I don't have to work for a week. That's what I did. It was hilarious at the time. But then I got into research because I didn't have anything else to do, and I needed my brain to be occupied. And there was only so many times I could play Call of Duty without getting bored. So I started researching, and that's the first time I kind of felt like researching was like my thing. So it was just like down a bunch of rabbit holes. And then I remember, oh, there was this Bitcoin thing. And I remember having a Coinbase account and buying some Bitcoin. And at the time, the price was crashing because of COVID and whatever. And I remember taking, at the time, I had like a portfolio of like stocks and shares through stocks and shares ISA and stuff like that. It was like, I was hitting the upper limit of how much you can invest in stocks and shares, basically. I was like, okay, I could keep going here. It doesn't make sense from kind of a tax perspective. And I was like, I've got nothing to do. So I sold, it took 3 days. That was horrendous. It took 3 days, but I sold everything, all the stocks, and I basically took out all the cash, parked it into Coinbase, and then bought Bitcoin, bought my first ledger, and then dumped the Bitcoin into my ledger. I think Bitcoin at the time was like 3K per. I remember acquiring a few Bitcoin, and yeah, I did okay on it.
Sounds it.
I did okay on it at the time, which I sold stupidly, like a couple of years.
Don't worry, I did as
2
well.
years later.
I had 10 Ethereum for $200 each
Oh
once,
my God.
and I think it went up to like 70%, and I was like, whoa, I got to sell.
Rookie move. And I was like, okay, I need to double down here. So I spent another month researching. I was like, okay, I need to like go full in. So I resigned from Janus Henderson. I had some cash in the bank, and Bitcoin at the time kind of recovered. So I was like, okay, I have some safety net here. Still living with my mum, so I was like, okay, this is the easiest money I've ever made. And then I was like, okay, I need to go work at a crypto firm somewhere. So what I did was basically just research every crypto firm in London and apply to all of them. Like, it doesn't matter the role. Even if they didn't have role, I was just emailing people.
Yeah, nice.
And had a bunch of interviews, and the two biggest ones were Genesis Trading. I don't know if it still exists, but I think it got acquired.
I think Genesis, wasn't Genesis involved in the FTX?
It got blown up
yeah.
because the Blockfolio and that whole under-collateralized debt thing, or under-collateralized loan thing. And then the other one was Copper, which was like primarily a custodian. And they had a role in their accounts team, which was basically, hey, you deal with pension funds anyway. This is just dealing with hedge funds. I was like, okay. The interview was very quick because like I knew I came from traditional finance, so I could like know what a hedge fund is, know what a asset manager is, know how they trade and stuff, and what portfolios are. And I also knew crypto. I also knew like what Bitcoin and Ethereum was. Perfect candidate. And they were like, okay, cool. Some of our team just joined as well, and they don't even know, they don't have either. I was like, okay, this is a startup, 50 people. I can do this. I can learn way more. And yeah, I joined the team, and from there I've been in crypto ever since. But yeah, that was fun.
Damn, that's a really interesting story. Okay, so got it. Right, so you're at Copper now.
Copper.
Sounds like you're doing your perfect job right now. You're researching at Copper, you're still earning a bit of money for a good reputable firm, and then you can use your analyst skills, is that right? Or did you, how was it working at Copper?
It was a great experience. I joined when they just announced their Series B, which was like $50 million. Mm-hmm. It's like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And they went from like 50 to like 100 people. And the half the firm was like Russian. The founder was Russian, and like some of the team was Russian, and they had a lot of Russian engineers. They had like really great tech infra. And the next thing they had to solve for, because they're basically primarily custodian client business, they had to like upgrade their client side of things, which meant hiring more analysts, hiring more people that know how to deal with accounts, institutions, and so on. So I did that for about a year, and then I started doing product stuff by accident, which I didn't really know at the time. I started like translating client needs into product kind of ideas and sending it into like the product Slack channel.
Oh, nice.
And I also started like nerding out around just the crypto and just like telling people what I was doing. And like there was this particular Slack channel called Industry News. I was just keeping everyone updated on what's happening in the market, which is hilarious at the time. And you know how crypto is, it's volatile. So every other week there's something happening.
Yeah.
Basically. So I was just banging stuff into that channel at the time. I was eager to kind of like, I don't know what it was. I was just doing stuff because like no one told me not to do stuff. Like I was like, this is a startup. People just expect you to do stuff, right? So I started like talking to everyone, built a decent reputation within the firm, started to get into like projects and rooms where people were kind of like taking on responsibilities and stuff like that. So there was multiple instances where like the firm had major, not crises, but like major moments in time because like just crypto, like ETH going from like ETH, like proof of work to proof of stake was such a massive moment because so much of the custody balance of like ETH for institutions was held at copper across
fair,
Earth at the time. And that was such a massive upgrade because like not only did you have to support it, you had to essentially also have the ETH be doubled up, if that made sense. And both ETHs could be sold technically. Someone was making a market for like the second ETH. So there was a bunch of those kind of things that happened, right? And then I managed to get the attention of like some senior team members. Like there was a guy from like that came from Bank of America that kind of took me under his wing, and his team was amazing because they knew TradFi, so I can talk shit with them. That was fun. And they also knew crypto, and I acted as kind of that translator sometimes of keeping them up to date with crypto stuff. And then I caught the attention of the CEO and some other C-suites where like they knew I was a nerd about crypto. that was my biggest like selling point to the firm. I was like, I'm nerdy about this shit. And I managed to get myself onto the product team after a while. And it was mainly like translating client needs and like trying to see where the market's going and market research and talking to partners and so on. I did that for a minute, and then I managed to basically become the lead DeFi guy. At the time, it was great, but again, like there's only so much you can do at a regulated custodian with the DeFi. Product, right?
I'm sure clients are putting heavy restrictions on what the firm can do, and then obviously they're under really strict scrutiny from the government. Like, what are you doing with all this money?
Trying to explain smart contract risk to an institution that all they're doing is getting Bitcoin exposure is kind of funny because they don't care. Like, I think DeFi wasn't really built for institutions in the early days. It was like built for like what was there, which is retail. Now institutions are there. DeFi infra has increased dramatically, and like people are trading on chain. People are comfortable on chain now with smart contracts and stuff. But there was no way for me to explain how to underwrite smart contract risk.
How did you ever attempt to do it?
Of course. Like,
how did it go? Like, did these? I'm sure in my head, you've got these really big wigs, flying about on private jets, literally billions of dollars.
Yeah.
How did it go? Trying to explain to them that smart contracts can get hacked, so the money can go.
I think the analogy of like a vending machine made sense to a lot of them. It's like you have this vending machine and you kind of have like a bunch of stuff happening within the vending machine, and you place a coin in there and something comes out. That's your transaction basically. And this vending machine
can get stuck,
or like someone could like
smash it,
or someone could like enter the right kind of pin and then get a free drink. That was basically like the best way to describe it in like principle. And they were like, okay, it makes sense, but like we're not gonna deploy capital because like we're just unsure of the risk. Like, and then at the time there was a bunch of hacks. There was like the wormhole hack and a bunch of others. And it was like, okay, like someone just stole $300 million. This thing is inherently not safe. Which at the time was the wrong takeaway. I think is like, this is the worst it's gonna be, and it's just gonna improve from here. And like, but a lot of them got comfortable, but not deploying directly on chain. They
instead getting indirect exposure through other companies.
So there was a bunch of like, they're kind of like, most of these funds are like multi-strategy. So crypto is just one of their strategies. So they had like people spin up dedicated small hubs of like DeFi operations. So a lot of like teams like Brevin Howard and stuff at the time operated like a DeFi fund. And from there they did a lot on chain stuff. Or like they invested in Arbitrum, so they got the airdrop and stuff like that, right? Or not the airdrop, like token allocation. So there's a bunch of that stuff happening. So those guys had to use our DeFi solution just to make sure their wallets at Copper could access those tokens, because like that's money. That's
free money. Free.
It's not really free money because they bought it, but like it's free money in terms of the upside that they got. Basically, they bought it so cheap that basically by the time they click connect and dump it into their wallet, it's like, okay, they just made 10x free money.
And when you say 10x, these people are not investing $1,000.
They're not investing $1,000. They're a couple of $1 million basically. It's like 10x is like $10-20 million, which is like, okay, cool. It's like, it got to the point where I just saw so many people that didn't know crypto make money on crypto, if that makes sense. But these guys were like, they had defined strategies, risk parameters, everything else. If you're retail, you're YOLOing into a coin because your friend told you. These guys are like systematic about stuff. They're like, they invested in a bunch of L2s. It's not like they invested just in Arbitrum. Their exposure is basically, okay, this is a trend. These are the biggest players. Let's allocate 1, 2, 3, and then that's it. okay, 1 out of 3 worked out. In crypto, the hit rate was so good at the time that you could basically allocate to 5 projects and 2 of them would work out and return like 10, 20, 30x, 1000x sometimes, which was wild.
Believe me, I remember those days. Yeah, I missed them.
Good old days. I did that for a couple of years, and then you introduced me to Tate. And we can take the story from there, but like...
I think before Tate, I think it was Avislair, wasn't it?
Was it Avislair? It was Avislair, we were,
yes. So for context, I was working at this investment firm as an analyst, and we're investing... we were doing a similar thing, but not for institutions, for private individuals. But basically... I was investing into liquid tokens at the time. I was working, I think I just worked on their VC, and then I was now working on their hedge fund. And because I met you, I think at the start of the year, we were looking for someone to basically help with investments, and I knew you, so we started working together at Avislair. But yeah, I remember, I think both of us were really raring to build, weren't we? I think that's one thing that I saw as well. I saw a lot of people make a lot of money. And you know, when you're not an institution or a HNI, it's like, okay, how am I going to make money? Okay, I need to, build something. I think how I met Tate, I was, I actually did a similar thing to you, trying to break out into the industry. I just emailed a ridiculously large amount of companies and basically just said, I will work for free. I'll work harder than anyone else in your company. Just to be able to break into the industry. That seems to be a common theme, I think, that people who don't have, like a rich dad to be able to get them in, a rich uncle, family friend, you just kind of have to be really scrappy and break in that way. So yeah, we were working together on the investment side at Avislair, this venture capital hedge fund, startup. So yeah, we both wanted to build. I met Tate off of a cold email on Twitter, and then before that, Tate told me I need to code. I think that was the biggest thing. I wasn't able to get a job with Tate right away because I couldn't code, and then I went away, built a project in Polkadot, and then started working with Tate for a year or so as their fellow in Community Labs, and then you came in. So how did you come in? I think, Tate was looking for another fellow, wasn't he? And I was a fellow there, and why did you join?
That was I had no clue. You were like, hey, Tate wants to talk about
he wanted to buy Arweave, didn't he? Yeah.
This was 23, 24. I can't remember exactly. I think it was 23. I think it was like June or something. It was like mid-year. It was like summer, and I was one of the only people working in the office at the time. And there was a bunch of people in, and it was a random Tuesday or Thursday, I think. Like one of those days, I was like, that's normally when I book meetings with like crypto people I was meeting at the time. And you were like, yeah, why didn't you meet this Tate guy? And he's like, he wants to talk to you about Arweave and stuff. And then I remember we had maybe an hour-long conversation about just liquidity and Arweave and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't know much about Arweave. I was like, yeah, it's one of the tokens Copper supported at the time, and Copper was the only custodian that supported Arweave. I was like,
it still is,
yeah. And I was like, I memorized the token list, obviously, in my head. I was like, oh yeah, Arweave, we got one of those supported. I was like, yeah, the transaction times are slow. Because I remember someone annoyed us. They were like, my transaction hasn't landed, because they primarily dealt with ETH, and they're like 15 minutes. And I think at the time, Arweave took like an hour to register a transaction. And so I had to talk to one of the engineers to actually hey, could you
speed this up?
Not speed this up. They didn't have a fetching thing for for blockchains that took longer than 30 minutes to register anything. It would give a buffer time, and then
refresh,
resync basically the balance, and try to check, hey, has it landed yet? And I was like, could you just help me out here and try to do something? So I remember, Arweave is storage and stuff, and I remember matching it to Filecoin and a bunch of others. I was like, storage space here, Arweave is somewhere here, and Filecoin and other stuff like Sai or Say or something exists like that. And then we just talked about liquidity, and he was like, okay, tell me what you're looking at and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I'm just looking at if you need to bootstrap liquidity, this is the way to go. And then we talked about him buying Arweave tokens. And I was like, okay, Copper can help you. We'll introduce you to market makers and stuff. But if you're looking to buy in size, you normally go OTC. You can't just hit, I want to buy $1 million of Arweave on the order book at the time. I don't think it was a
Don't
thin
know if
order
it
book.
has that, yeah.
Yeah, it was a thin order book on Binance and stuff. I was like, I can introduce you to a couple of people. And I remember he figured it out himself, obviously. Tate is well connected. He just called a couple of people, did an OTC deal. But I remember that conversation was fun, and we had a follow-up. And then we talked about like, what would you build if you were building a new blockchain? That was kind of like the high-level question. And it was like, okay, you need to solve the liquidity issue first. Like a lot of people like try to build and say, okay, people will come. Like blockchains are built for like trading at the time, now as well. So if you have enough liquidity, money can move around. And the thing that made the most sense to build first was a stablecoin layer, because without stablecoins, things are volatile. Like you're pairing volatile assets against volatile assets. It doesn't really make sense, and it doesn't like create this like black hole of liquidity basically. And you need to create that by pairing the primary asset with a stablecoin, and everything needs to just suck in. Like the ETH was listed against like random stuff on like AMMs. As soon as like stablecoin like DAI, USDC, USDT came into play, and you can like build AMMs around it, I remember just trading went up, like volume went up, liquidity went up, like the ability for people to trade and make money LPing on these like very simple stablecoin versus.
So this is LPing providing liquidity.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, if you have a stablecoin for your ecosystem, everything else is kind of solved for. And these are the biggest players, and you would do this. You can go with the maker model of being over collateralized. You can go with the USDC and USDC model where like you're collateralized, but you're using T-bills on the back end. I remember the conversation was fun, and it was like, yeah, why don't you just meet other people? I was like, oh, sure, why not? So I met Matt, and we talked about product. And at the time, I was still learning the ropes of product. It was just like my first year of doing product, basically. I was like, this is how I'm trying to build product, and still learning and stuff. And then I remember Tate was like, yeah, just like we have this fellow thing, and we help incubate ideas and stuff. And then I met Kyla, and then it just went
from there.
Yeah. And then I got this call on a random, I can't remember, I think it was a Friday or something. They were like, hey, we're in Blacksburg, Virginia. Why don't you just like fly out and stuff and come work with us? I was like, sure. At the time, I agreed that I was going to be a fellow, and I already resigned from corporate. So it's just like perfect timing. I was like, okay, cool. I'm not doing anything next week Friday. Let's like, why not? So that was my first time in the States. So that was fun. Yeah, it was
a fun trip.
It was a fun trip. Got to meet you again, got to meet Martin, got to meet the whole team, and just hacking on at the time. Astro was called Lotus. And yeah, it was, haven't turned back ever since.
That's great, mate. It's an awesome story. So what's Astro?
So Astro, in its simplest terms, is like a stablecoin infrastructure company. We primarily built USDA, which is the native stablecoin of the Arweave and AO ecosystem. Yeah, like stablecoins made sense 4 years ago. They make even more sense now in 2025. We're about to go into 2026. But I think we spotted it early where we're like, what's the only few things that work in crypto? Speculation, trading, stablecoins. Everything else is kind of like untested waters. And we saw just the rise of stablecoin liquidity on chain, how much money like Tether, Circle, and these guys were printing. And we're like, we can replicate a similar model on Arweave. But the story kind of shifted into, why is everyone leaking value? That was the main question. Like, I think the Community Labs team was asking at the time. And I was like, okay, this is a very good question. Like, why is every blockchain losing money to Tether and Circle? Like there's billions of dollars of like USDT, USDC on Ethereum. Ethereum sees none of that revenue.
And this goes back to the Starbucks analogy, right?
Yeah,
Starbucks' whole business model is, well, I think it's part of their business model, but like you say, the gift cards, being able to, I think they borrow against it, don't they?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so so now you've gone from an analyst to a builder, founder and CEO. How was that? How was that experience? You know, it must have been a real switch in your head.
Looking back, a lot of the skills I built up make sense now. At the time, I was like, this is doesn't make sense. Like the ability to like just grind or like not switch off, like that was such a skill I didn't learn. Sometimes you need to mentally switch on for basically days at a time, and you need to like keep hacking on the idea and banging your head against the wall. like that's not a thing you kind of learn. You just wake up tomorrow and you're like, I have this one question I need to answer, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to answer this question. You can't just wake up tomorrow if you've never done it before. You kind of like go through that motion.
This must have been quite vulnerable. It sounds of it then. So it's kind of like a shot in the dark. At the time, did you feel that like? I sometimes, whenever I feel a bit vulnerable, whenever I'm doing something new, I always feel like a bit of a fraudster. Like I'm on a call, and I'm like, God, I'm the what's the imposter syndrome sort of thing. Did you have that?
Of course. Like the first time I joined the community labs team, I'm like, everyone's so brilliant. Like everyone was like legitimately smarter than me. I'm like, this doesn't. I don't know why the hell I'm here. Like everyone's like, I remember meeting Martin, Matthias, and Matt, and Kyla, and Ashley. And I was like, okay, everyone is like next level. Every conversation with Tate, I'm like, he's fucking brilliant.
Pretty
sorry.
No, it's fine.
But I was like, he's brilliant. And I remember I was like, that's I don't know why I'm here, if that makes sense. That was the constant question in my head. First time fundraising, I was like, I'm pitching investors that like made generational money, either like building a company or investing in crypto. They're like brilliant people, and they were like looking at Astro as an idea from every angle. I'm like, this is brilliant. I remember catching up with Will from Lightspeed. I was like, this guy is like next level. Just like he's covering angles I haven't seen before. It's like he's asking amazing questions. That made me kind of rethink the initial model and helped me a lot throughout the journey. But I was like, there's definitely, I'm missing. I shouldn't be here. It doesn't make sense. Like starting where I started from here doesn't make sense. But it doesn't make sense as a straight line, I think. But I remember having a conversation with you and Tate Valencia, I think it was.
Yeah, what were we chatting about?
I think we were just talking about just like fundraising and being founders and stuff.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah. We
were in this couch spot, and we were just
you, Corinne Martin.
Yeah, it was like 10 at night or something like that. And I was just, I don't know how the question came up, but it came up, and Tate was like, you have to like basically get over it. You're here for a reason. Like you shouldn't doubt yourself. There's some level of like self-confidence or delusion that's required to do anything, basically.
Some level of ego.
Yeah. And I think in everyday life, I don't feel like an imposter, but like I just got over it somehow. Doesn't mean it doesn't come back now and again, but yeah, you just have to keep moving. You can't stop. You can't let it stop you, basically.
That's really good advice. Yeah, it's the same thing. I think I try and tell people. It's like it's really daunting sometimes. Like, you've literally worked with billionaires when you were a custodian and an analyst, and now you're with people fundraising, you're speaking to investors, and yeah, you can have that imposter syndrome, but you kind of just have to get over it. And then, I'm sure now, if we were to go back and speak to these same people like we do every quarter in our update, it's like, they're just people. And it's like you sit around some of these tables and people have fancy names and these fancy job titles, and it's always the same faces. You always got the weird one, then you've got the really serious one, then you've got the cool one. Sadly, I'm usually the weird one. But yeah, okay, so we were having a great conversation earlier. What were we talking about? We were talking about before we started the podcast. Can you remember?
Yield layers.
Yield layers, let's touch on that. So you've had a really, really good experience, in corporate finance. Then you went into kind of crypto custody. Then you went into the building side, and then now it sounds like you're thinking about building more things. So and it sounds like you want to build around yield layers.
Yeah,
let's talk about
that. Still stablecoins, just as I think stablecoins are one of the interesting primitives in crypto, but it's also an interesting financial unlock for a lot of like places in the world, basically. And
when you say places, are we talking about third world countries like not being able to access traditional finance?
Yeah, I am from Somalia originally. Yeah. It doesn't have financial infrastructure, full stop. And
how does it work in Somalia then? Are people using cash or using like MoneyGram?
Yeah, cash, MoneyGram. There's things called hawalas, basically, which is like kind of like verbal ledgers is my best description of it. And someone will correct me, I'm kind of butchering it, but like essentially someone in the UK would say, hey, I need to pay my brother in Somalia, basically, $100, and I'll give you $100. You're in the UK.
Yeah.
And then you would essentially reach out to your cousin in Somalia and say, give $100 to this guy's brother, and that's the transaction completed, basically, plus a fee, obviously.
how does the money get from me, your brother, to the person?
It doesn't move at all. It's more like
It's more just a debt that will one day be repaid.
So I'm going to mirror it back to like how it works in traditional banking.
With Swift, yeah.
With Swift, because they have what's called Nostro-Vostro accounts, where JP Morgan might have a cash balance with Bank of Singapore. I don't know if there's a Bank of Singapore. Hopefully there's a Bank of Singapore, but like there's a Bank of Singapore and they have cash there. And when JP Morgan needs to pay the Bank of Singapore for something, they don't use their balance from the US. So they're not sending money. They just say, Bank of Singapore, I owe you $100, take it from my account, basically. And Bank of Singapore will do. And then once the Bank of Singapore wants to pay someone in the US, they just send it from their cash balance at JP Morgan, basically. So they have these cash parked across the globe. And like treasury management is messages being sent, not actually. Swift is a messaging network. It doesn't actually physically send money.
There's no
all.
cash transaction.
There's no cash transaction.
Yeah.
There's no transaction at all. It's more like a, hey, this guy owes me $100, deduct it from his account. That's kind of the messaging layer. And so Somalia, same thing, but more verbal, more like human oriented.
Based on trust.
Based on trust, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's how these networks work. But yeah,
it's just like not Middle Ages, but it's like, it's just, this could be really revolutionized with crypto. It's like, you know, me and you have both built like smart contracts that can have extremely advanced state management. It's like most of the world is actually powered by this really complex middleware that doesn't need to exist.
There's a bunch of companies working on it. There's this. I've recently connected with the CEO of Yellow Card. They're like massive in basically Pan-Africa, like a bunch of Asian countries and stuff. But like their main focus is like Africa right now. But their basically entire treasury system, as far as I'm aware, is powered by stablecoins. So they're moving money globally, and they don't need to touch banks until like the point of entry and the point of exit. So on-ramping, off-ramping. Everything else moves towards this blockchain layer, basically. So for cross-border, stablecoins makes a ton of sense. Banking in the UK doesn't need stablecoins in the middle.
No, well, we have actually pretty good...
infra.
It's called FPS, I think we use. Yeah, okay.
Faster payments, something? Yeah.
Faster payment service, I think. Yeah. Okay. So is this the industry you want to disrupt, or do you want to go more? I think earlier you were saying you want to go more into disrupting how businesses manage their own client treasuries with stablecoins, right?
Yeah. So there's two ways to kind of look at stablecoin businesses. You're either an issuance layer, Circle, Tether, Coinbase, Stripe, name a company basically. They help other people issue stablecoins on top of their infrastructure. So they take the entire headache away from you. Or you become a user of those stablecoins, whether that's yield or WAs or whatever. So you can kind of separate stablecoins into like these two businesses. Astra as an infra company, what we did first was an issuance layer where we acted as a bridge between other networks and AO, essentially allowing people to wrap their stablecoins. We would issue our own and then take those stablecoins and then park it in something like Sky and then generate yield on top of it. So essentially a issuance bridge layer, basically. The yield layer is very interesting because like the yield rate is coming down for T-bills, of course. So people need to look at what's the best place to actually park their money at any given time. And with the explosion of like stablecoin volumes and stablecoin transactions, a lot of platforms will adopt the two biggest stablecoins, USDT, USDC.
Yeah.
But that means they can't generate anything on top of those platforms. If you're a platform that does $100 million worth of volume a month, in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of volume to these big companies anyway. So you can go to Tether and Circle and say, hey guys, I want you to like give me some of the yield you're generating on this $100 million that goes through our platform. They'll be like, no, why? We don't offer it to people that are doing $1 billion of volume a month. Like you're basically nothing. That sounds crazy, but like that's what they would say.
This is a really good pitch. It makes a lot of sense. I think we'll have a chat off camera about this. It's a really good pitch. I think you should actually bake that into the pitch. So you're now trying to disrupt it. So instead of that leaky value going to like Circle or Tether, you now want it to be going back to
the platforms. Yeah.
The platforms.
So there's two main questions I asked myself when I was I need to like lock myself in a room and try to figure this out. The idea anyway. But there's two main questions. One is, will stablecoin adoption slow down? Like the answer is basically no.
Yeah.
Like 2026 onwards, like stablecoins are the things every platform, whether you're a gaming platform or a fintech or whatever, you adopt it because it's just a better way to move money in and out of your ecosystem. So that's number one. Okay, if it's no, then where will the value accrue? The value would accrue in two layers. People that can orchestrate the issuance, Circle, Tether, Coinbase, Stripe, name your issuance layer, those guys, and what I call kind of a yield / RWA orchestration layer, where you take existing stablecoins and make them productive, and then share that economic value with either the platform or the ecosystem you're kind of embodied in. And kind of that was the idea around Astro, but I think B2B businesses make way more sense, especially if you look at where the world is going towards stablecoins. It's looking at on-chain. There's only trading for now. There's prediction markets and there's a bunch of other stuff. And all of them have stablecoins embedded, where all of them will need to figure out the yield layer. Polymarket might issue a new stablecoin, because why not? They're using USDC, they're not generating anything. How much volume goes through Polymarket a month? They could be generating like crazy amount of money. Hyperliquid recently did that USDH auction, where they have a native stablecoin for their platform and their trading activity. And they're leaving like maybe $50 million a year on the table because they adopted USDC. So there's a lot of these platforms, right? And you see the contrast in like a real, let's say real world, not on-chain world, basically. A lot of these platforms that are going to adopt stablecoins will adopt USDT, USDC. But that means their stablecoins are not productive at all. But they're way more efficient moving money around. But they're just leaving money on the table. So then the second question is basically, can you help these platforms turn their idle stablecoins into productive assets? And that's where kind of if I can answer that question, which is going to take a while.
I think you'll get there, yeah. Interesting. You know what this is? It's kind of like, it makes me feel this is the privatization of money. Throughout, history, it's been governments have been issuing stablecoins, and now it's moving into private companies issuing their own stablecoins. I think, like you say, Tether and Circle, they kind of beat everyone to it, if that makes sense. They kind of not disrupted. They scaled this idea, I don't know if that makes sense, but they basically they took this concept and just kind of ran with it and completely captured the whole market. And now you're saying you want to disrupt this market by bringing the issuance to the companies. So instead of Tether and Circle being the government, it's now issuing stablecoins, like the current way it's doing. It's now you want to privatize that and have companies issue their own stablecoins, kind of like how Starbucks has the gift cards. And every company has this. I'm sure, what an interesting thing might be to do? Look into who powers the gift card technology and what are they doing. I'm sure there's a company, I'm sure Starbucks isn't doing it themselves. Like there must be a company that goes B2B through each of these, Starbucks, Walmart, all of Amazon, and basically says to them, we're going to make we're going to use our rails for you to issue your gift cards on. Have you looked into that?
I have. I think most of these guys,
they do it themselves?
They build a full stack, basically. Like the Starbucks model isn't like very complicated. It's literally their app and they have a bank account.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. So once money gets swept into that bank account, they convert it into T-bills. So the money just goes into like treasury bills. Like it's not like a very complicated system to replicate. It's like issue one is you have to figure out the regulations around this.
Yeah.
Like this is a very regulated business. Stablecoins are inherently regulated. So you have to figure out if you're a regulated product or if you're a technology product. And that will determine how fast you can move, what you can do, what kind of team to build. That determines a lot. And like I have to determine that. Is this a regulated business or is this a technology business? If it's a technology business, we could start tomorrow. If it's a regulated business,
I think that's the only thing that could kill this is, have you just seen the news in the UK? UK consumers are not allowed to purchase over what is it, $1,000 of stablecoins?
I think it's $10,000 worth of stablecoins, or £10,000 or something. The UK is backwards. Like the UK is behind on stablecoin regulations because if you know crypto tech and like stablecoins, you're not working for the government, you're working in the private sector. And so there's not a lot of hand holding. In the US, you can lobby In the UK, you can lobby as well, but there's not like
yeah. Well, people can't be asked to lobby.
Yeah.
They'd much rather just go to the US. I know
Yeah.
out of my own experience. So, governments surely would be misincentivized for this. If we're agreeing on the thesis is that this is the privatization of money instead of governments issuing it, we're now democratizing it so companies issue it. Do you think that governments are just anti this full stop because it means that they now don't get this yield theoretically? The Bank of England, doesn't get the yield.
No, as soon as like you have UK banks switching to like, hey, we can figure out how to monetize this, because I would like to say crypto played a big part. I think the banks in the US also played a big part in like slowing down regulations till they caught up. And I think the same thing will happen in the UK. Once the UK banks kind of catch up from like a tech and like resource perspective and people perspective and like how to deal with digital assets, the landscape will shift from like hey, we need to fight this to, hey, we can make money here. So like, let's like push this
stablecoin division of Barclays. Yeah.
Basically, like a lot of these guys are spinning up dedicated digital asset divisions. They already had like 3 guys in a room basically. Now it's like, okay, cool. There's money to be made here.
Yeah.
Everything is getting tokenized. Equities are getting tokenized. Like stablecoins are essentially tokenized money. The previous boss that came from Bank of America recently left to go to Citi to kind of work in that division as well. Like they're acquiring talent. Like just like Stripe is acquiring tech and talent, like so is Coinbase, but they're going like crypto native, trying to speed run a lot of this. I think the banks will also do the same thing of like not acquiring crypto native businesses, but like acquire knowledgeable people within crypto and take them internally, because like they need to get up to speed or else they'll get displaced by Stripe basically. So it's like banks, traditional banks versus fintechs now, because like now it's like level playing field on how they can move money globally. How do you make money in that case?
Yeah, well, I mean, regulate the hell out of it so that they can only they're the only ones that can actually do it. Okay, right. What time is it? It's we've been going for a while. I keep any longer, but I think the last topic I want to 2 things actually. Okay. I want to talk about CBDCs briefly. Okay. Get your opinion on it, and then I want to talk about what's next for you. So let's talk about CBDCs. What do you think of CBDCs? Do you think that and when I say a CBDC, it stands for Central Banking Digital Currency.
Yeah.
How do you feel about these? I know a lot of people are fear-mongering on social media about them, saying it's going to be the end of the world, it's going to be like a social credit system in the West. What do you think about this? How do you view them?
I think it's inevitable. The government can already look at your bank account. Like the UK is a little strange. Like if you don't have any like hard-coded like freedom of, I don't know, like there's a bunch of US stuff where like it's hard-coded into the law that people have like privacy and a bunch of other stuff, and it's like, but it doesn't mean like the government can't see what's in your bank account, or like they can't freeze your bank account, or like whatever. I think privacy will become a bigger narrative, especially 2026 and beyond. CBDCs will exist. They already exist in some form. Right now it's like, do you really use cash?
Apple Pay.
Yeah, Apple Pay, contactless, whatever. Like for the government, it might be switch of like they'll just like go there and flip a switch, and from there, no one will realize like their money in their bank account is basically a CBDC. Because why not? I think it's inevitable. So you have to kind of like look at what's going to work going forward. And I think privacy and ZK proofs and things that can like, you can prove something without showing something, I think will become a big thing.
Zcash makes sense. I wondered why you're looking into it then. You telling me the other day, I was like, why are you looking at Zcash?
I was nerding out about Zcash because I was like, okay, even though Bitcoin has its narrative as like a monetary hedge against like the world going to shit, I think it never had a privacy layer. No. So everyone can see what everyone has. And my thinking is, one, is there money in this trade? There was, like, basically 3 months ago. But like, I'm like, does this make sense as a future predictor of like where money could move? And there's a lot of like governments now at play in terms of the Bitcoin layer. Bitcoin narrative is like monetary, and governments are acquiring Bitcoin now. So it's like now it's like a race to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible, because if everything shit hits the fan, it's going to be minerals, and the only thing that makes sense from a tech perspective is like Bitcoin. But then the question is like, that's great for governments. Now governments are at play and they're on the same playing field as regular people. Where would regular people go? Especially the ones that are Bitcoin rich. They would preserve and not show how much Bitcoin they have, quote unquote. So essentially they need to encrypt their Bitcoin. Right now, the only way to encrypt your Bitcoin is basically turn your Bitcoin into Zcash. Like there's Monero and a bunch of stuff, and like the privacy narrative will play out very well. I think it's good narrative trade, but it's the infra is being built right now, where Near has this intent layer where you can go from Bitcoin to like Zcash, and there's like a bunch of wallets integrating it, like Shapeshift and a bunch of other stuff. I remember catching up with Matt from Community Labs about it. But I think encrypting your Bitcoin will be a big narrative for anyone that has some wealth in Bitcoin. And if you want to keep your wealth in Bitcoin, you need to hide it under your bed. Quote unquote. Like if you had gold, you can hide it under your bed, right?
Yeah.
But if you have Bitcoin, everyone can see what you have. You might not know like who owns it or whatever.
Public key this is, yeah.
But like tracking systems, analytics have become crazy where like they can see where you came from.
What's that company called? You've got that huge one at the minute. You know, the really big analytics company.
Palantir.
No, it's the other one, the blockchain analysis. Chain analysis?
Chain analysis.
Yeah, they're huge, right? And their whole thing is
they work with governments as well.
Yeah, it's
basically
like the Palantir for crypto.
Okay, Lorimer deposited from his Coinbase account in this wallet, and he moved to Bitcoin this way, and then he encrypted in Zcash.
Now you've got like Arkham and platforms coming out like that.
You can track almost anything. It's just how much effort is it worth for the government to track what Lorimer is doing on chain. But at some point in time, someone needs to like build like infra for this, and I can see it being built in real time right now. And there's a bunch of interesting people on Twitter, X, talking about it, like Mert and stuff. But like, it makes sense to me. It makes sense. Like I don't know about anyone. I'm still writing about it. I'll send you the hey, this is the TLDR of like Zcash. But like, I think it makes sense in terms of going back to CBDCs. The government is asking for more and more control, and I think that will push more and more tech-savvy people to look for ways to kind of obfuscate their wealth, how much they know, stuff like that, basically. And,
I mean, it sounds like they're asking for the control back. You know, it feels like they've always had this, you know, Judge Hammer that basically said, okay, your bank balance is zero. Well, they had it for a certain period of time when we were transitioning from cash to, like you say, Apple Pay and contactless, and now it's kind of leaking out to blockchains, to the privatization of all these stablecoins. Right then. Well, let's pause it there on the CBDCs.
Go for hours, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're a great talker. So so what's next for Kadar then? So I know that you're thinking now about like, so you want to disrupt this kind of middleware for the privatization of stablecoins. So companies launch their own stablecoins, right? But you know, you mentioned that you also had aspirations of getting into an investment, being a VC. Let's briefly speak about that. What do you think's in the future for you then? Do you reckon you're going to continue building and then transition into venture? Where's your head at the minute?
Research. That's where my head is right now. And I've been writing a lot and publishing a lot. So I will probably create a dedicated website just to host stuff.
You have a website. Let's plug your website. What's your website for the listeners?
It's 0x Kadar, KADAR.xyz.
I'll pull it up on the screen.
I've just been hacking on just a bunch of research stuff, trying to figure out exactly where the market's going. The market has changed. There's this really good article called, I can't remember the writer. It's like,
I'll try to find it.
Crypto is dead or something.
Okay.
It's on Twitter. I'll send you the link. It's on X, and it's basically theories like crypto has changed. Like it's like there's no longer on chain, off chain. It's basically like there's products that work and products that don't work. It's like crypto is blended into the real world now. Like you have fintechs adopting stablecoin technology. Like now the TAM of like the addressable market for crypto just expanded greatly. But that means you can't just be servicing crypto native people only. You have to build for the other side of the world.
For the actual consumers.
And most consumers will not know what they're interacting with. They're basically like just rails. So it's like Starbucks analogy is always good. And I can't take credit for this. It was someone else. It was basically you go to Starbucks and you're buying coffee. Do you need to know how their payment system works?
No. Yeah.
I'm ordering a latte. I don't really care how you accept my money. Just take my money. It's like, and crypto hasn't solved that problem. Where like the people that are interacting with crypto need to know
how to use crypto.
Basically, which doesn't make sense for anyone. Like if my younger brother, mom, anyone basically wants to adopt crypto, they have to spin up a MetaMask wallet. That's kind of, I think Privy and a bunch of other companies
trying to do the abstraction layer.
Yeah, abstraction layer. But that's where the world is going. So I'm kind of like in full research mode. So there's a bunch of themes that I'm kind of sticking around in 2026 and beyond. It's like privacy narrative makes a lot of sense. Prediction markets, they're just getting started. Like you can make a prediction on basically any type of event. I think it's going to be the thing that makes the most sense 2026, especially with sports betting and Polymarket and Kalshi debate. I think there will be a bunch of other alternatives. People will be betting on what happens on TV shows, and it's going to get interesting. It's going to be the new social graph, in my opinion, of like how people interact with each other. It's going to be like, oh, I took a bet on whether someone leaves Love Island a week early. I don't watch Love Island. I don't even know if that's how it works, but like those kind of things makes it a lot of sense, right? And then of course stablecoins. Like stablecoins still have my heart, so I'm looking at like where the market is going. You have like Stripe building Tempo with Paradigm. You have Circle building Arc. You have Coinbase now entering the game with their issuance layer, and they're also doing equities, so a lot of RWA stuff. I'm fascinated by Hyperliquid. Always is like the best execution venue on chain right now. And there's a bunch of perp trading and trading exchanges coming live over like 2026, so it's going to be interesting. Solana is always an interesting place. There's so many corresponding things happening on Solana. There's a lot of push on like app layer versus chain layer and where value would accrue. So there's a bunch of that stuff that I want to research and write about and think about. But yeah, I'm researching crypto. Like that's basically 2026. I'm researching crypto. Well, what I do next, I don't know.
But for now, you're just trying to get all the data to be able to
trying to get all the data, try to figure out like where the market is going, have a thesis. I personally invest in these things, so like no financial advice. But like I don't know why like Hyperliquid wouldn't just dominate the entire market. It's dominating right now, and it launched its token and doesn't have a points program. The execution of the Hyperliquid team has been like god tier. Like I'm just watching this team execute.
I think you should go work for them. You love Hyperliquid.
I love
surely
Hyperliquid.
like a small 3-month.
No, their talent. They're basically engineering heavy. I can't code for shit, remember? And I think there's a bunch of other teams, ecosystem teams that I got to know. I got to know like the Risk Finance team, like the Paraprotocol team. I think those teams are interesting to kind of potentially work with or collaborate with. But right now it's like I'm trying to figure out why I want to do in crypto. And like joining those teams, especially because they're so early, I'm just an additional burn that they have to cover. It doesn't make sense. Being on the founder side, like I know how much burn like a random person that's not value add yet is, and I don't think I'm value add yet in terms of where those products are. Plus, I just don't know what I'm good at yet. I'm kind of a product person. I'm kind of a BD person. I don't really know where I land. Being a founder has been, I think, the best thing I've done so far in my entire life. I think I still have the itch to build. I just don't. Some parts of being a founder, I have to either learn how to do better or like just strip away by having a co-founder. Like that was the biggest thing I think in terms of building Astro. I just never had the dual co-founder partnership, and that's something I was definitely missing. And I think anything else I would do in the future, I need that counterpart of like what I'm good at, and they're good at things I'm not good at. Because some of the stuff being a founder, as you can speak about, is like horrendous, and you want someone that's really good at that. You want someone exceptional at that, and you do what you're exceptional at. So I need to figure that out and kind of come back to you. But I'll let you know. Like, just look at my website. I keep it systematic about what I'm looking at, what I'm doing, but it's there. Like, just read my articles and tell me they're terrible.
Well, cool, man. Yeah, is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, this has been fun. I am excited for 2026. I'm excited for what you're building. I don't want to tease anything, but like you're up to some amazing stuff, and I want you to kind of like keep doing the content thing, because I think this is definitely
could
massive.
be cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well,
awesome.
Kadar, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you for having me.